everybody? You're having a good time tonight? Yes. All right. So we're going to start up in just a second. There's still plenty of people out in the lobby, and hopefully out in the lobby they can hear my voice. And so I'm going to encourage everybody to kind of come back to their seats so we can have part two of our evening with Robert Jones. And instead of y'all just looking at me, because you can admire my nice little handmade coat here, but instead of just looking at me, I'm going to tell you a quick story. I was just telling Robert this. As some of you know, I'm a music historian, but I work here at the library. I don't just talk about music. That's right. The earliest reference to a banjo in South Carolina, and the banjo is, like Robert said, legitimately, absolutely a West African instrument that enslaved people brought the memory of it, if not the actual banjo here, they brought the memory of it and then cobbled together things and made their own banjos here. But the earliest reference to a banjo being played in the city of Charleston appears in the newspapers of Charleston in December of 1766. 1766. It's not an illustration of a banjo. It's not a description that says, hey, I heard this great instrument last night. It's a notice for a missing wallet. It's a notice in the newspaper in mid-December 1766 that says, last night I was standing at the east end of Elliott Street, downtown Charleston, on the waterfront. And those of you who have deep Charleston memory know that Elliott Street's been a shady place for about 300 years. At the east end of Elliott Street, I was standing about 8 p.m. And 8 p.m. in December is pitch dark, right? I was standing at the east end of Elliott Street listening to a man play the banjo amongst a crowd of people who were listening. And a Negro woman rubbed up against me and picked my pocket. And here's a description of her. Talked about what she was wearing, said her teeth were filed in the African manner, and she had the country marks or tribal scarification on her face. And in my wallet was about 250 pounds, which was a heck of a lot of money in 1766. So the newspapers in our town are full of all kinds of great history like that. And it brings us from the distant past to the present. And Robert Jones is going to tell us more about the banjos and the roots of American music. So come on back, Robert Jones.
Thank you so much. I have had a really good time playing for you, and I met some fellow Michiganians. Some of us call ourselves Michiganders, but I am a Michiganian. Anyway, met some fellow Michiganians and had some people say, do you do any Reverend Gary Davis? Do you do any of this? Do you do any of that? So I got to squeeze in some requests here before we leave. And I'm told that if you are in the garage, it's a little bit flexible, so you don't have to choose between Robert and my freedom. So, cool. Well, my wife and I we've been married for 30 years, and it's been great. But when we first got married, I was doing blues stuff. I was just a bona fide blues man. Doing songs like, I don't want no skinny woman. Give me a gal, got lots of meat. Cause when I get to loving, I don't want to have to stop to eat. I mean, it's like stuff like that. Then the Lord plays a trick on me, calls me into the gospel ministry, and then not long after that, well, actually a good little while after that, I get to pastor a church, and all of my good repertoire goes right out the window. So, but that's cool, that's cool. I found out what Gary Davis found out, the Reverend Gary Davis from Spartanburg, South Carolina, right? Reverend Davis was a street singer in New York. For $5, you could get a Reverend Gary Davis guitar lesson. For $7.50, I think you could get a Reverend Gary Davis guitar lesson and one of his wife's chicken dinners. And I'm told that the lesson was the better part of the transaction. But Reverend Davis used to stand out on the streets of New York, and he taught a lot of important and influential musicians. And one of the songs that my wife and I love to do together is a song called I Heard the Angels Singing. So you guys can help us out. Your part is, I heard the angels singing. Try that. I heard the angels singing. walking along, Lord, I heard the angels singing. Well, you know, I looked around and I saw no one. I heard the angels singing. What do you reckon those angels said to me? I heard the angels sing. Said your sins are forgiven and your soul set free. I heard the angels singing. I say one morning soon, Lord, one morning soon, yeah, one morning soon. You know, I heard the angels singing. I went down to the valley to pray. I heard the angels singing, and I met old Satan down along the way. I heard the angels. What do you reckon that bald-headed rascal had to say? I heard the angels sing. Say you too young to die, you too old to pray. I heard the angels singing. Say one morning soon, Lord, one morning soon, Lord, one morning soon. You know, I heard the angels singing. Just when I thought my soul was lost, I heard the angels singing. My dungeon shook and my chain fell off. I heard the angels singing. Well, people come running for miles around. I heard the angels singing just to see what the shouting was all about. I heard the angels singing. I say one morning soon, one morning soon, Lord, one morning soon. You know, I heard the angels singing. You know, I heard the angels. You know, I heard the angels singing. You know, I heard the angels. Have you heard the angels? You know, I heard the angels. I heard the angels. I heard the angels sing. Yeah. Thank you so much. You sound good. You sound really good. One of the great aspects of this tradition is it's a living tradition. So not only do you get to, you know, recount or bring with you the likes of Reverend Davis or Lightning Hopkins or Robert Johnson to the stage, but you get a chance to tell your own story. So my daughter, the aforementioned Arnesia, is a beautiful girl. She's, like I said, 25 years old. She knows everything. Must be really hard to know everything and still need your mama and daddy's money, but she does. She does. And so I wrote her this song when she was about 8 years old to let her know one thing for sure, and that's why her name is Arnesia. So the song starts in Evergreen, Alabama, a city that is perpetually behind the times. They got a new Walmart about 5 years ago. They were excited. They got a new John Travolta movie, Grease. So it's behind the times, y'all. But this is where Arnesia's song starts. In the year of 1916, the moneyed world had turned its hands to war. But deep within the state of Alabama, Arnesia of Evergreen was born. And there never was a movie done about her. No history book will ever hold her name. But I know her story like I know my own hand, and I will tell her story just the same. Well, in 28, when all the folks were laughing, talking about the money that they'd made, At 12 years old and dresses made of patches, Arnesia picked the cotton while she played. And she helped her mother raise 2 orphan cousins, 'cause that's the way they did it in those days. Barely older than the children that she cared for. That's how Arnesia learned her mother's ways. And in 34, when all the folks were crying and talking about the money that they lost, Arnesia was all alone and trying to figure out what love too young would cost. She'd had 2 children for him out of a wedlock, back when such children were a mark of shame. Though she never wore it in her own house, she raised her babies with their father's name. And no movies were ever done about her, no history book will ever hold her name. But I know her story like I know my own hand, and I will tell her story just the same. In 49, Arnesia left for Detroit to see the poor man's fabled promised land. She sold whiskey to the workers in Black Bottom, and she put her problems all in Jesus' hands. In Detroit, it wasn't like old Alabama. She had to learn to face the cold gray morn, that rags wrapped round her feet would keep her walking, and newsprint round her legs would keep her warm. And in 56, while civil rights was marching, her daughter had a baby of her own. She found out what Arnesia had long known, that it's hard to raise a baby on your own. But those women worked to raise that boy together, and they gave me all the best they had to give. When I think about the way those women raised me, I know those women taught me how to live. And no movies were ever done about her, no history book will ever hold her name. But I know her story like I know my own hand, and I will tell her story just the same. By the 60s, Arnesia's son got married, and he found success in the mechanic's trade. His 8 children came and brought his mama pleasure, and around her feet all 9 grandchildren played. And we grew inside the joy that was around her. Somehow we'd all cut out our middle moms, for a neighborhood of children called her mother, and she wiped away our tears on callous palms. But by the 80s, while the whole wide world was spending, Arnesia did the best that she could do. Her only son got killed at 37, and her only daughter died at 52. And the twist of fate had taken all her children, and nearly all the joy that did remain. But in my son's eyes, she met 4 generations, and she knew her life had not been lived in vain. And in 90, in the month that she was born in, Arnesia of Evergreen went home. And in 91, my wife came in and blessed me with another little Arnesia of my own. And sometime when I hear my niecey laughing, I can hear my other niecey in the sound. And it's then I bow my head and pray to heaven that Arnesia's life goes better this time round. Thank you so much. Oh, thank you very much. Well, let's see. I think I got one here unplayed. The mandolin, or as we say down south, mandolin. Mandolin. Mandolin is usually an instrument reserved for bluegrass music. Bluegrass is a beautiful style, but it's somebody else's gift, not mine. No, I came to the mandolin because of a man by the name of Yank Rachel. Yank Rachel was from Tennessee, and kind of like Jack and the Beanstalk, his mama sent him to the store to buy a pig. He met a man who had a mandolin and came home with a tater bug. And his mama looked at him and said, "That's all right, Yank. While we all sitting around eating bacon, you can eat that mandolin." But fortunately, Yank learned how to play the blues on the mandolin. Now, I don't know if you've ever heard blues played on the mandolin. It was mighty pretty. He had a guy by the name of Hammy Nixon. And Hammy used to play along with him and another guy by the name of Sleepy John Estes, a gentleman who suffered from narcolepsy. Just dozed off right in the middle of the concert. But it was a great show. It was a great show. And they used to do a song called the Mailman Blues. Now, young people, the mailman used to be a key and integral part of your life. After you saved up all those box tops, and you waiting for that mailman to show up, and he don't show up. It's a brutal thing. When you waiting for that love letter, and it don't come, you waiting for the mailman. So Yank used to say, "I've been waiting for the mailman. Usually come around by 11 o'clock. I've been waiting for the mailman. Usually come around by 11 o'clock. Well, he must have had car trouble, or the road it must be blocked. I say, mailman, please come by today. I say, mailman, please come by my house today. I'm expecting a letter from my baby. Please bring it right away." Oh, mailman, please don't you lose your head. I say, mailman, please don't you lose your head. Well, you know my boss might be in trouble. Yeah, some of my people might be dead. Well, you know I just found out what the trouble was all about. You know I just found out, yeah, what the trouble was all about. You know the mailman been getting drunk, leaving my mail at someone else's house. you. Now, somebody asked me about my main man. In fact, I think it was Juke Joint Johnny. Asked me about my main man, yeah. Son House, Eddie James House Jr. And I guess the reason he's Son House is because his daddy was Daddy House. And Son was a man who loved the blues. Son preached the blues. In fact, Son used to preach. He was a preacher and a blues man, just like me. But unlike me, when he was a preacher, he was a teetotaling preacher. When he was a blues man, he was a hard-drinking blues man. Makes for a schizophrenic situation and a really bad show. So, Son, if he had an audience like this in front of him, would say, ain't but one kind of blues, the real blues, the B-L-U-E-S blues. That's the kind of blues that exists between male and female. Everything else is monkey junk. Now you get that letter bordered in black. That's the death letter. You do too much of the death letter blues, you're liable to jump in the river and drown yourself. I was doing some death letter blues for the young peoples at the school earlier today. They were looking at me kind of like I was crazy. But young folks love death because they so far away from it. I got a letter this morning. How you ring it red? Said hurry, hurry, cause girl, your love is dead. Got a letter this morning. Oh Lord, how you ring it red? He said hurry, hurry, cause the girl, your love is dead. When I packed up my suitcase, took off down the road. When I got there, she was laying on the cooling board. I packed up my suitcase, and I took off down the road. When I got there, she was laying on the cooling board. I eased up close and I looked down in her face. Said farewell, honey, just can't take your place. I eased up close and I looked down in her face. I said you're a good old gal, but I just can't take your place. It seemed like 10,000 people were standing around the burying ground. You know how much I loved her till they began to let her down. Seemed like 10,000 standing around the burying ground. You know how much I loved her till they began to let my baby down. I went to church about down and I tried to pray, but the blues come along and blowed my spirit away. Yeah. I bound down to pray, but the blues come along and they blowed my poor spirit away. Hush, thought I heard her call my name, didn't call so loud, so nice and plain. Hush, thought I heard her call my name. so much. Thank you. So I did about 2 verses of that at the middle school today, but it was close to the end of the assembly. So I just give them a little taste of that. And then I go, I would love to do the whole song for you guys. And they're like, yeah, okay. I'm like, but I don't have but a minute and a half, so the only way I can do that song justice is to modernize it. So instead of doing each verse twice, I'll do each verse once. I'll speed up the tempo of the song, and I'll fade the music out, in which case this will become the 1928 Death Letter Blues 2017, The Remix. And it goes like this. I got a letter this morning, how do you ring in red, said, hurry, hurry, cause the gal you love is dead. You know I packed up my suitcase, took off down the road, and I got there, she was laying out on the cooling board. I eased up close and I looked down in her face and said, hey, you know I love you, but I just can't take your place. It seemed like 1,000 was standing around the funeral ground. I didn't know how much I loved it till it threw my baby in the ground for my arms, and then I walked away and said, hey, you know I love you, have to see you judgment day. You know I woke up this morning, it was about to break a day. I was looking on a pillow where my baby used to lay. I went to church about death, I tried to pray, but the blues come along and they blowed my spirit away. Woke up this morning about the break of day, and I was hugging on a pillow where my baby used to lay. I said, hush, I thought I heard her call my name. She didn't call so loud, but she called so plain. Yeah, boy. Yeah. Thank you. So, it is a little known fact that Son House did invent rap. No, I'm just kidding. But it, you know, it was rap's older cousin, Delta Blues. So you guys have been really great. I'm gonna do one more for you. I don't want anybody to get locked in the garage. I'll tell you a little interesting story about Son House, though. He's buried maybe about 5 miles, less maybe, from my house in a little cemetery called Mount Hazel Cemetery. And that whole idea of him being buried, whether he's a preacher or a blues man, his family brought him a simple tombstone that says, Eddie James House, husband, father. Cool. The Blues Society went out and raised all kind of money, myself included, to buy him this huge monument that says, Son House, father of the folk blues. On the back it says, when Son died, each blues man moved a notch up because Son was at the top of the mountain. And it was really beautiful. Engraved, laser engraved picture of him. The only thing we didn't think about was that tombstone is 3 graves wide. So we'd have Son stretched out over 2 other people. So what did they do? They put Son's other tombstone vertically right on top of him. So he's the only man I know who has 2 tombstones pointing in opposite directions. I like that. Well, one other person that I really admire was a singer from Texas by the name of Blind Willie Johnson. And Blind Willie was not a blues singer, but he sang spirituals. You go out on the streets of Galveston or Beaumont or Marlin, where he was born, and he'd sing those old spirituals. And it's really great if you're singing spirituals, if you got some sisters back and you're up going, But a lot of times you just can't get 6 sisters in a car. And if you're driving and you're blind, it just ain't gonna work. So what you do is you get your guitar to go, and it works. So he would stand out on the street and he would play all kinds of religious tunes, but one in particular, he moaned it. It was called Dark Was the Night and Cold Was the Ground. And I found out later on, after hearing that tune for like 20 years, I found that it actually had words. So I went and found an old Baptist hymnal and put the words to the melody. It goes something like this. drops of sweat like blood ran down in agony. In agony, he prayed. Father, please move this bitter cup. It's such thy sacred will. If not, I am content to drink it up. Thy purpose to fulfill. Whenever I listen to Blind Willie, it makes me think about my pastor, the late James E. Robinson Sr. Rev used to tell us a story around graduation time. Now that I pastor that little church, I get to tell that story. The graduating seniors come around and say, Rev, tell us that story. I say, y'all want to hear this story? Yeah, we got to hear this story, Rev. So Reverend Robinson used to tell us this story, and he would give us $1. He said, as long as you got this story, you'll have some wisdom. As long as you got this $1, you'll have some money. I don't know what happened to my $1. I think I spent it at White Castle or Jack in the Box or something. But I still got the story. Rev used to tell us that there was a boy who always did his best because his father always told him, no matter what you do, son, always aim high. So the boy always aimed high. I guess it's that Irish thing, right? If you aim for the sun or the moon, if you slip, you'll fall among the stars, me boy. Something like that, right? So he always aimed high, always did his best. And he was about to go away to college for the first one in his family. Family is so proud, mother proud, father proud. Father took him to the side and said, you remember what I told you, don't you, boy? He said, yes, sir. What'd I tell you? He said, you told me always aim high. He said, that's right, boy. Always aim high. That means even if you miss, you're going to hit something good. Say, now, you know we're so proud of you. You know we're proud of you, don't you, son? Say, yes, sir. Say, I want you to do your best in that school up there. I said, but before you leave, I want you to do your daddy a favor. He said, what is it, Daddy? He said, I want you to go out and get me a nice big fat possum. I don't know what you know about Southern cuisine, but I guess when you want a big, fine, fat, greasy possum, nothing but possum will do. So the boy said, I will, Daddy. And he knew he only had, they were poor, man. He only had a single barrel shotgun and one shell. But before the boy could make it to bed, his mama called him and said, son, you know we're proud of you, don't you? Say, yeah, Mama, I know it. She said, before you leave, I wish you'd get up in the morning and go get that shotgun and bring your mama a rabbit. I got a taste for some rabbit and gravy, and I'm going to make you a nice dinner. He said, yes, Mama. Now, all night he sat there wondering how one shell was going to get two animals. How am I going to get that possum for Daddy and that rabbit for Mama? Pretty soon, the rooster crowed. Now, being born and raised in Detroit, the one thing my southern parents did not tell me is that stupid rooster does not crow once. He crows all day long, all night long, too. Crowed. Boy got up, got that old hound, and loaded up that shotgun and went looking for the first thing he found. Well, about a half hour later, that old dog had treed the finest, biggest, fattest, greasiest, rat-looking possum that you ever saw. He said, well, I guess Daddy gonna be happy, but Mama gonna be disappointed. And just when he was thinking about Mama, he looked at the base of the tree, and at the base of the tree was the finest, biggest, fattest rabbit you ever saw. Now, what am I gonna do? Do I bring it home to Mama, or do I disappoint Daddy? Do I disappoint Mama? What do I do? He kept looking at the possum and the rabbit and the rabbit and the possum, and he knew if he didn't do something soon, he was going to lose them both. And that's when his dad's words thundered in his ear. He said, whatever you do, son, always aim high. So that boy got a bead on that old possum, and he let old Bessie. And you know how it works in these kind of stories. You know that fallen possum fell down and killed the running rabbit. He was able to take them both home. That's what Rev used to tell us. And we believed it, because sometimes the truth is just the truth, whether it happened or not. And so, you might wonder, what in the world does that have to do with Blind Willie Johnson? Well, Blind Willie always aimed high. He was singing out those spirituals out on the streets of Galveston. He was aiming high, singing spiritual songs. That night he was singing and the shack caught on fire. Managed to get it out, but he had nowhere to go. But on that wet bedding he slept. Contracted a cold. That cold turned into pneumonia. And pretty soon he was gravely ill. They got him to the hospital in time, but the hospital wouldn't take him. Not because he was black, but because he was blind. They thought he couldn't take care of himself. They sent him back. And within 3 days, he was dead from pneumonia. But he always aimed high. They put him in an unmarked grave. You would think that was the end. But about 30 years later, somebody came through, said, we're gonna send a rocket up into space, and on that rocket is going to be something called the Voyager. And on the Voyager is something called the Golden Record. And on the Golden Record is the best stuff on earth. Bach, Brahms, Beethoven, the poems of Lao Tzu, even Chuck Berry is on that Golden Record. And right in the middle of the Golden Record is a recording by Blind Willie Johnson. Dark was the night, and cold was the ground. And if you're real quiet at night, you can hear Blind Willie's voice as it streaks across the heavens. And I guess when it comes to aiming high, you can't do too much better than the Voyager. Thank you so much. You guys have been great. Thank you. Thank you, Charleston. Hope we get a chance to come back real soon. Thank you. God bless you. Thank you. Well, I hope what they said about the cars is true. Like I told you, young man by the name of Sonny Terry, being a big influence on my life. Sonny Terry was legally blind, but could see more than most folks. And he used to tell this story about this guy running away from a chain gang. You could tell it with that harmonica alone. This boy was running away. He heard a train go by. But it wouldn't slow down. He heard a truck going down the road. It wouldn't slow down. One day, he heard that train do something he hadn't heard before. Working on that old chain gang going. He said, man, when that train started, I plan on being on it. So he started running, but he forgot about the dogs. Big dogs. Little dogs. Chihuahuas. So that train started, and Lost John started running. Shake 'em. Mama, Mama, Mama. I know you do. Yeah. Don't smoke. Come here, boy. Coming, mama. Thank you.